Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pac-12 Chalk Talk, your source for everything Pac-12 sports. I'm your host, Austin Controls, and alongside me tonight, Mariah and Robbie Baker. And tonight, guys, we have our final episode of Chalk Talk, the final episode for the year. I know it's sad. Robbie, don't cry. It's going to be okay. So for our final episode, we will once again be having more of a conversational show. And guys, basically it's just going to be a recap of the year. We're going to kind of start with the best stories of the season from around the Pac-12. I think we're going to start with football. Mariah, we're going to start with you. So your best story of football from this year.
I don't know if it's the best one, but it's definitely a depressing one for ASU fans. We saw that program struggle incredibly. They started off uphill and then just tanked towards the end. Running game, almost non-existent there. Kicker blew it in any close game, any chance they had. We'll see if the Devils can get back on track with Todd Graham. Yeah,
I definitely had a similar thing. I said it last week in the baseball, Arizona State baseball roller coaster. Arizona State football, huge roller coaster ride, Six Flags, Great America, whatever you want. They were on the biggest roller coaster ever. I mean, uphill, a 6-2 start. You beat Mizzou at number 21 at home, national TV in overtime, huge win. You beat USC. They were number 23 at the time. Probably one of the bigger wins in the program history, but since they've kind of been rebuilding. And then they start losing, and they lose to after Colorado. They lost 5 straight, and they couldn't turn around from there. Erickson get gone. Osweiler leaves when Graham comes in. So this program really struggled. Definitely the most interesting story of the year. Now they have to go rebuild, and I think the story continues.
And I took a positive spin on this, and I looked at it as two things, a two-part, best moment of the football season. First Pac-12 championship football game. It wasn't the best of games. It wasn't the best matchup, but they had their first game. So that was a good step forward in the right direction for the conference. And then how about that Baylor-Washington playoff game, the Alamo Bowl? I mean, the final score of 67-56. I mean, that was one of the biggest offensive outputs of any. It was the highest bowl game, I think, total points in history. Yep. And the emergence of Keith Price is one of the better quarterbacks going forward in this conference. He could be, other than Matt Barkley, the best quarterback in the conference next year. Washington is a team to watch in the years coming up. And I look at that bowl game, that Alamo Bowl, as a real bright spot in this Pac-12 football season.
And what's interesting about that is that we all saw Oregon, throughout the year just continues to succeed, and their bowl game was such a letdown for all of us.
They had cool helmets, though.
I
could see my face in them, but Kirk Herbstreit and Brett Musburger did not like them.
No, they didn't. They did not. So moving on to baseball now, guys. Best story from baseball. I know Oregon's been the Cinderella story all year. I wanted to go with them, but they just lost 2 games to Washington State over the weekend, so I couldn't go with them. I have to go with Arizona. This is a program that's kind of been in the shadow of Arizona State, basically their whole existence. This season came in pre-ranked above Arizona State. I think a lot of people doubted them, but the Fab Five, Mariah, really has helped this team.
The Fab Five is, I think, the story of Pac-12 baseball these days. You've got strong pitching, offense, everything on the diamond has come together for this Arizona team, and you can't dispute that. Arizona State, they've got the pitching staff. We all know that. Best pitching staff in D1 schools, but U of A has the complete package, I think, with the Fab Five.
And Robbie, I know you were high on Oregon. As of last week, are they the best story in baseball?
I mean, they're still a very good story in this Pac-12 season. I think the best story overall, though, is just the sheer parity in the Pac-12 this season. As you guys mentioned Arizona State. They're a team that's always at the top, and this year they're struggling. Cal, Austin, you said that you thought they were going to be a team that was going to go to the College World Series. They're still at the bottom of this conference with a sub-500 record. You look, and in Oregon, a team that I said last week what I thought was the best team in the Pac-12, obviously, like you said, Austin, they dropped 2 of 3 this weekend, but they're on the rise as a program that's just kind of getting underway. As we said last week, they're just kind of getting started as they've just been revitalized the past couple years. So I think just the parity in the Pac-12 this year is what's really been the story in baseball.
And then you go from baseball being probably one of the best conferences in the NCAA to our basketball program.
And the problem with that is that all we see for Pac-12, we've got an okay football program, basketball tanks, and then we get picked back up by baseball. But baseball kind of trails off towards the end as the season winds down, and we're not sure the total package there. We don't see an outstanding Pac-12 conference besides baseball, which is kind of a letdown, I think, for the Pac-12 schools.
And yeah, overall, Austin, like you said, basketball was bad this year. There really wasn't much to talk about. I mean, U of A was a team that many people thought had a chance to maybe make a national tournament run in the NCAA. They got knocked in the first round of the NIT. You look at overall, I mean, Colorado was a team that ended up winning the Pac-12 tournament, like Nick Merrick on our show predicted, but that was a team that kind of came out of nowhere. The Pac-12 overall in basketball was just very bad this year. One game, though, that really stood out to me was ASU beating U of A at the end of the year. I know I was at that game. The environment was great in Wells Fargo Arena, and it was a bright spot for an ASU team that is potentially losing Trent Lockett. They've lost Chance Creekmer. Herb Sendek he shouldn't really have the extension he has, but he does.
Seat after signing an extension.
Exactly. He's on the hot seat after signing an extension. So we'll have to see what ASU does next year. But overall, Pac-12 basketball is really down. They need to be picked back up.
Yeah, and the story for me for Pac-12 basketball, the fact that, I mean, every week on this show, it's kind of like Pac-12 basketball again. Like, once
Still
again, they're
average.
still not good. And a funny thing, I went to the Pac-12 website today, just kind of look at basketball and see what they said as a recap. Funniest thing, I'm just going to have to read it. The story headline for basketball in the Pac-12. Pac-12, 17-8 in postseason play this year, matches the most ever wins in the postseason for the conference. Those wins coming in the NIT, with Stanford winning the NIT, Washington making it to the semifinal. Then they mention Washington State making it to the CBI Championship Series against Pittsburgh. The CBI stands for the College Basketball Invitational. I'll pay you money if you watched it somehow.
I don't even know if that's covered.
Right.
Those things.
Failed to mention the two teams that got into the NCAA tournament but didn't make it past the first two rounds. So Pac-12 basketball for me, disappointing all season long. The fact that was the storyline on the Pac-12 website, I think says a lot.
One bright spot, though, is recruiting. U of A has a very good class coming in. UCLA, after their signing day, jumped up into the top 5 in recruiting. They're number one now.
ESPN,
yeah,
with Arizona number 3.
Exactly.
But
so
do you think they'll be able to prove it when the season comes?
I think what you'll see with UCLA is what we saw from U of A this year. Is it's a young team, a team that's trying to get their legs under them, but they'll get some wins. U of A is going to be a good team next year, though, and I think you see that UCLA, U of A kind of rivalry start to grow here with these nice young players, as long as they don't go one and done. But it'll at least, put some good talent in the Pac-12.
At least something to watch.
Exactly.
Hoping not to have any Kentuckys in the
All
in the
five,
Pac-12
starters
conference.
leaving.
So, I mean, we're going to transition from the Pac-12 basketball being such a bad story to really just the bad stories of the season, the uglies from this Pac-12 season. For me, I'm just going to go right into it. Basketball, once again, it's Arizona State taking on Washington State and scoring 8.5 points. And I really wish that I'm making this up right now.
I could have scored 8 points and a half.
But 8 points in one half, I think it just goes to show you how bad basketball was in this conference.
Yeah, basketball was really bad. I actually have 2 from football as 2 of my low points. One of them came in the ASU-UCLA game. ASU was ranked 19th at the time. They had a chance to, like you said, they were 6-2. They could have been 7-2. Alex Garut had a chance to make was about a 30-yard field goal. He misses that field goal wide, and from that point on, that Sun Devil team collapsed as they lost 5 straight to end the year, if you count the bowl loss to Boise State. The other play that really stuck out to me was the Stanford-USC game when Andrew Luck, if you've watched Gruden's quarterback camp, you know that Andrew Luck made the wrong throw on the Spider 2 wide banana. He threw to the back wide receiver.
It was obvious.
You don't throw to the back wide receiver on the Spider 2 wide banana.
No, you don't.
And he did it, and it got picked off for a pick 6. That game went to 3 overtimes until the Stanford Cardinal finally prevailed. But that was kind of a low point that kind of turned into a high point, as that was one of the best football games we saw in the Pac-12 this year.
And I know you mentioned UCLA. I mean, Mariah, there was an ugly in UCLA kind of, right?
There was a lot of ugly in UCLA. You can't even pinpoint that program. There wasn't one particular thing that stood out except for all of it. That's how I feel. I feel like it goes up and it was a letdown throughout the whole season.
Well, I mean, UCLA ending up somehow winning the South, who knows how, going to the first inaugural Pac-12 championship game in football with a subpar 500 record. And for the Pac-12, as a conference, that makes the North look really good because they had some great teams. Made the South, though, look like a very bad conference.
To be fair, you can't really dispute that. South versus the North, it's easy to say the North will, in my opinion, will always prevail.
They did last year, and here's the thing. Coming into this next year, guys, I know it's early. Spring football, though, just ended. Practices just ended these past couple of Saturdays. So I know it's early, but I want to predict this as we do return to football when we come back in the fall here on Chalk Talk. Who's going to end up in that championship game, that second annual championship game for the Pac-12? For me, I actually think the South is going to prevail. And I think it's going to be USC because they have Matt Barkley. Now that they're eligible, yes. They have Matt Barkley returning, and they have one of the best receiving cores to come with him in Robert Woods and Marquise Lee. And I think Oregon's going to be there with them in the championship game, but I see USC in the South this year taking the championship game.
And Mariah, I was going to say, I'm going to guess you agree with them because I'm the one who usually makes the bold picks.
The bold statements.
I make the bold statements, and I'm going to be bold here again because I do think USC will get there. I do think USC will win. I do actually think that USC has a chance to win a national title this year with Matt Barkley coming back. You mentioned that receiving core. The defense is always good, and this is the first time they're going to be eligible, so they're going to be hungry to get there. But out of the North, I think Washington is the team to watch this year. Oregon is always good. They're going to be good this year. If Washington can just beat them head-to-head, I think Washington can get to that Pac-12 championship game. Keith Price is going to have a monster year at quarterback this year, and that is a good Washington team. A team that almost beat Baylor.
Yeah, I honestly think that Matt Barkley and Keith Price, those are the two quarterbacks to watch. I would say that all the other teams, they're okay in that department, but I would say Keith Price, Matt Barkley, they're going to be up there pretty high.
And Oregon is losing Deron Thomas and LaMichael James. So, and those are the two big workhorses on that offense.
If they can pick up their running game, though, we'll see how far they can take themselves.
Kenyon Barner does come as LaMichael James' backup, and as he showed last season, he is LaMichael James. He might be better than LaMichael James, they're saying.
Hopefully.
And Oregon's always going to have those quarterbacks that
Bennett
can run. And Bennett, and we saw him last year. We saw him come into the Arizona State game, and when Thomas went down, and he made Arizona State's defense look just as bad as Deron Thomas did. So all Oregon needs is a quarterback that can run.
And that's why I'm interested to see the matchup, Oregon-USC. I think it's on November 3rd this year. That, I think, is the game to watch for the whole season. It's early to say, but Oregon-USC, if you can complement those games, it's going to be a good game to watch.
And who knows, we could have a repeat of a game, and it could flip-flop. So that should be really interesting. So those are our predictions, our very, very early predictions of what our second annual Pac-12 championship game will be. I think they'll pan out, actually. We might have to come back to tape and prove something when we come back in the fall. But, guys, because it's our last show, it's kind of time for us to reminisce in our favorite memories of Chalk Talk from this last year. It was our first season for Chalk Talk. I really enjoyed it, and we definitely had some good memories to laugh at. So, Mariah, we'll start with you. Your favorite memories from Pac-12 Chalk Talk. Favorite
Chalk Talk moment has to be, I know you guys remember it, Robbie Baker's Christmas poem. He, went through all the bowl games, made it rhyme with a Christmas carol. It was phenomenal. My favorite, hands down, Chalk Talk moment.
Just gonna dust your shoulders off here.
This is touching.
Where do you find the time to do that? Let me ask you that one.
I don't know, honestly.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you.
I'm gonna have to go with my favorite moment from Chalk Talk this year. Was probably actually, to be honest, guys, this last show that Robbie and I shared. We shared a moment here on Chalk Talk. It was touching. Just an intimate setting for this last episode. Just Robbie and me having a conversation about baseball. I couldn't ask for much more.
It made me not want to come back on the show. I'm like, hey,
no,
if you guys need another moment,
we needed you back.
I can give you that moment.
We needed you back.
We can have it right now.
Yeah,
go. There it is.
There we had it.
No, one of my favorite moments from this whole last semester was actually when we did our midseason report cards, and I got to call out Kirk Herbstreit and basically tell him he was completely wrong. I got to compare ASU to the Zune, and I think it was USC to the iPod. I actually don't remember who it was I compared them to, but I made a ridiculous comparison, and then it got shoved right back in my face when UCLA ended up going to the championship game, just like Kirk Herbstreit predicted, and I looked stupid. So anytime I look dumb, I'm sure the viewers like that.
So the best part about that is we got you apologizing in another episode later. You completely ate your words there.
When Kirk Herbstreit came on the show, you actually had to apologize to him in person.
I had to kiss his feet.
Yeah, that was interesting too.
Happens.
Yeah, no, if Kirk Herbstreit's watching, we deeply
We'd
apologize.
like you to come on the show.
Yeah,
and we deeply apologize. So guys, this is our last show. These are our last moments together. Any last remarks?
I just want to say thank you to Mariah. I mean, if it wasn't for Mariah,
I don't want this moment.
this would have not come together. Mariah was the one who was the the brain behind all of this. She coordinated all of it and pulled it all together. So I just want to say thank you to Mariah, because if it wasn't for her, this face would not be on YouTube every week.
I was going to say, no, it's the on-air talent. Thanks, everyone, for sticking through it. It was a lot of work. I know that. Everybody showed up every week, and I appreciate your guys' hard work.
Well, I have to say, guys, I have a Grammy speech written here.
Uh-oh.
So
do we have music in case it gets too long?
We can, some violin. So,
play some music.
Guys, I have definitely had a blast this year hosting the show. I can't thank everyone enough who helped on the show all year long. Obviously, our lovely producer, Mariah Baker, our director, Glenn Anderson, our technical director and basically handyman, Joey Post, our sound guy who was not able to make it tonight, Brian Wise, and then obviously our panelists from the first semester, Ben Haber and Pierce Bly, who have been behind the scenes this semester. And, of course, Robbie Baker, whose lovely face has been on camera all season long. So, guys, just thank you for making this a great show. And, obviously, there are some great things to come. So, for the last time, we have come to the end of another episode of Pac-12 Chalk Talk. To stay connected with the Pac-12, be sure to follow Chalk Talk on Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe right here on YouTube. So, for Robbie Baker and Mariah Baker, I'm Austin Controlas, and we will see you next fall.